Let's watch. Let's go back to France. A neoliberal safe haven, by many respects, where the people are fighting back against their neoliberal government and the actions that it's taking that everyone considers to be authoritarian, but for some weird reason is never mentioned in American news. I don't know what it is, but for some reason it's just like rarely ever mentioned in American news for some reason.
Thousands of protesters in France have staged more strikes and more rallies against the government's pension reforms, with some demonstrators clashing with riot police. People are angry after legislation to raise the retirement age in France from 62 to 64 was forced through by President Emmanuel Macron's government. Our Paris correspondent Lucy Williamson reports.
The temperature rose as the sun went down. Across France, fires burned like beliefs, as bright as fever. Young protesters with their rocks and bottles disappearing in clouds of tear gas fired by riot police in Bordeaux, in Nantes and in Paris.
It took minutes for this peaceful protest to turn.
Dude, American media is about to be like, they're actually protesting out here outside of Bordeaux specifically to raise the pension age, the pension eligibility from 62 to 66. Many French people are saying this, and then they show the French saying the exact opposite, but in French, so then they caption it with the opposite of whatever the fuck they're saying.
And violent, hidden amongst the main demonstration, masked protesters who are now taking on the police.
Running through the lines of police, the white and black helmets of the specialist units known as Brav M, rapid reaction teams tasked with stamping out trouble. A new target for protesters after growing allegations of abuse. A video emerged last week apparently showing Brav M officers hitting a protester in the face. And an audio recording appears to have captured threats, intimidation and racist insults against a group of student protesters. Next time, you won't be going to the police station, you'll be going to the hospital, one officer is heard saying. Salome was one of them. She's since filed a complaint and was back out protesting.
It's important to have policemen that are able to contain violence and to protect people. But in that case, the violence was against us.
No, they're actually, they're actually protesting because they arrested Gideon at the Louvre. They don't give a fuck about the pensions one way or the other. This is the Free Gideon protest. Yeah. They're protesting for the abolition of the rollerblade cops. Because those are, everyone knows, those are the most tactical unit that the French have. Devastating, with devastating consequences for society.
They were not protecting us. We must have been protected from them. That is really worrying to me.
The protests across France were, as usual, largely peaceful and smaller than last week. But police say some mainstream protesters are joining agitators in attacking them.
After the COVID, after everything that happened to France, the inflation and everything, people start to be really tense. And that's...
I can't take the French seriously, dude. Look at their fucking police union guy. Like... Come on, man. Where's the cop skull? Where's the fucking cop skull? He literally he has way too much hair, no cop skull. I can kind of see his neck. Like, none of this shit makes sense. You can't have a twink be the fucking, police union head. This guy literally looks like a tech bro, dude. He's got the Patagonia vest and everything.
That doesn't help to reduce the violence against the police because the police is representing the state. So in a way, when you attack the police, you might feel you're protesting against the state.
Fires are burning across France as President Macron struggles for a way out of this crisis, with political negotiations frozen and the streets on fire. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Paris.
Let's talk to our Paris correspondent, Hugh Schofield. Hugh, the protests go on. How much disruption are they causing as they continue?
Well, in a way, surprisingly little. I mean, this isn't Israel, which has been closed down by a general strike, as you've been reporting. Yesterday, there were demonstrations. There was problems on the day in public transport and schools and so on. But I mean, it wasn't a general strike. Life went on. Economic life and the whole went on. What it's doing is kind of sapping the morale of the country, though, and there's this general feeling that the country is on a bit of a brink. And that this is going nowhere, that every week or so there is another day like this in which violence is becoming more normal, and that, underlying it all is a political crisis and a kind of state of political paralysis, which is condemning the country into sort of decline. The crisis is less to do with declining GDP or economic figures being hit or anything like that. It's much more to do with the state of the country and the feeling that we're this is just digging into a deeper and deeper morass.
You say that this seems to be sapping the morale of the country. Do you get any sense that the continuing demonstrations and everything else is changing public opinion at all?
Not really. I mean, opinions get more and more entrenched, I suppose. There's no real indication that the big majority against the reform is changing. I mean, what we saw yesterday was possibly a smaller number of protesters out and demonstrators out. From the government's point of view, there was good news also that the bin strike seems to be over. But a lot of this is to do with the fact that striking is not a neutral business. It costs workers money, and after 3 weeks on strike, people just give up. So there are sort of cracks, if you like, in the opposition movement. But I mean, in general, one has to say that it's still very, very strong. And on the other side, that there are noises from certain members of the government who are obviously getting the willies about all of this. But Macron himself seems to be determined and saying that if we start talking about a pause in implementing this law or anything like that, we might as well just give up.
So at this stage, for Emmanuel Macron, no real clear way of emerging.
It's so strange to see when there's actual labor action, cops behave the way that they do, In America, we have this like heroic police narrative, partially because there's not a lot of labor action that takes place. Oftentimes, this kind of movement is done on the boundaries of race for racial emancipation, for Black Lives Matter and the like. And of course, because America is founded on the principles of white supremacy and the continuation of slavery, there's not a lot of sympathy towards that sort of thing. So you can pretty quickly hand wave that away and say, no, they're doing that to protect us, right? People get more mad about property damage than they do about the state exercising its monopoly on violence towards people that actually have the right idea, okay, to take matters in their own hands, to protest against the unjustifiable occupation that the police force presents in Black and brown communities, specifically working poor. But no such thing really happens towards labor action because there is not this much labor momentum. But in a country where there is more powerful unions, in a country with a history and a proud tradition of labor action, you get to see how cops really behave as they are supposed to when they fucking pummel the skulls in of the white working class. Maybe perhaps their whiteness will allow some of my watchers that are in the margins and not actually fully committed to the idea to recognize that this is what cops do. They do this universally. They have done this historically. This is why Marxists consider cops to be class traitors. Although they themselves are in the working class, their role is to suppress working class momentum, oftentimes violently, as a matter of fact. They're literally pummeling the skulls of the very same people that are fighting for their rights. This is a universal problem, not a universal, but a national problem in France. The pension age, pension eligibility increasing impacts the police force as well, and yet still, there they are, utilizing their batons on these people that are actually actively advocating for their best interests as well. Oh, police isn't affected by the bill? Never mind. Yeah, if they got a carve out, well, there you go. Wonder why they got a carve out. It does make a lot more sense. Think about that. European cop school is very different regional phrenology. There's more diversity. They look more similar to each country's specific young fascists. Northern Europe is slick back, blonde hair, and scary smooth face in terrible fashion like that French guy. Portugal, Spain, and Italy are tan dudes with buzz cuts. UK has Tory cop skull. The Balkans have corrupt right-wing bald stachio dudes. Okay. It's good to know. He said Lijibutika.